Zander, what have you brought to the table today?
Well, Lou, you know me. I'm always full of surprises. And this time, I'm switching things up every single week. What about you? Anything cooking?
I'm still deciding, but funnily enough, I couldn't keep this table to just us. I've invited a few guests to join us this season. You might recognize a few of them.
Oh, yeah? Should I be excited or nervous?
A bit of both. Now, I'm in a rush. I've got a lot cooking on the stove. So pull up a seat when you're ready and let's dig in.
Welcome to Tech at the Table, where ideas get served.
Hello, Eldar, the procurement AI king, Mr. PayPal Exit. Pleasure to have you joining us at the table today.
Good to be here.
You are in North Carolina. What are you having for breakfast today? Is it breakfast time?
Lou, it's way past breakfast time.
I normally don't have them, but this morning my wife said, hey, you should make waffles for the kids. And I made waffles, and then I had a couple of waffles. That's what I had. Even though I went to the gym in the morning, but...
I love that. I am obsessed with pancakes, savory, sweet. I absolutely love it as well. We call it brunch over here, so it's fine. Zana? What are you cooking up? Lunchtime in New York City. You're very hungover because you've obviously watching the game.
You know, I was just a little tired, Lou, because the Knicks won. And I know Eldar's a Celtics fan, but he has to give us like this one moment. It's been quite some time, but I had a pan chocolat because I can't tell you can see it. I'm working on my accent as I go to Paris next week. Spend some time with some more of the prop tech folks.
Right, Eldar, so outside of making waffles for your gorgeous family, tell the audience, who are you? What do you bring to the table?
Yeah, my name is Eldar Sadikov. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Field Materials AI, and I'm a two-time founder. I went to Stanford to do my PhD, and then started a company called Jetlore that I ended up selling to PayPal. And then I started this company, Field Materials AI, in 2022, and we're a VC-funded company that's raised about 20 million in VC funding and doing extremely well, growing 3x year over year.
Amazing. You're going to hear how Eldar sees himself as a bit of a dropout, even though that is definitely not the case.
We like to value dropouts a little bit more, especially they come from Stanford. One, thank you very much, Eldar, for coming on. Can you give us a 1-minute pitch on Field Materials?
Yeah, Field Materials is AI native procurement platform for construction. We build AI agents to automate data entry and verification and sort of operational side of procurement, everything from getting quotes from suppliers, leveling them, comparing them, setting up purchase orders, creating purchase orders, processing and tracking delivery receipts, inventory processing, inventory management, prefabrication. So all the pieces of procurement, we automate a lot of the workflows. We automate the data entry and verification steps for contract. We have some big general contractors, ENR, top 50, the likes of Swinnerton that self-perform, that do things like concrete or carpentry or framing. And we have civil contractors as well. So a lot of the big civil contractors that build roads, utilities, underground utilities, stuff like that. And also obviously the classical specialty subs, and here the usual suspects is mechanical, electrical, plumbing contractors. They represent a pretty sizable chunk of our customer base. Obviously, mechanical, electrical guys experience a massive growth because of data centers, and they're basically pushed to innovate in a way, and because of the timelines of this project, and that's when they come to solutions like ours, like Field Materials AI, to really streamline and automate things for them.
Is it very similar to how you were writing recommendations, e-commerce for Jetlore, but just taking that same application and applying it to the procurement process?
I think it's the same and different at the same time. So like the fundamental principles of how you build predictive systems is the same, in a sense that you got to have a great testing framework and evaluation framework, clear KPIs, and have to be almost religious about how you roll out new models and whether they perform better or worse. Because when we worked with retailers, we were constantly tested on revenue, like how much revenue we actually generate for our customers. Are we lifting that revenue? Are we actually delivering the results? Here, it's the same idea that if we are building these agents that read documents from customers or automate certain workflows, we want to make sure that these agents are not hallucinating, executing it correctly, extracting the correct data, and we constantly evaluate and then making sure that the data is correct and they're performing at 95, 98, 99% accurate. But the way we build the systems changed dramatically. Like when I was building my first company, again in 2011 through 2018, things were like it's almost like working with a shovel, right? In a sense that we had to build a lot of the sort of traditional data pipelines where you load the data, transform the data, extract ETL pipelines basically, and then you have to do a lot of feature engineering and machine learning terms, and really the methods were very kind of like shovels nowadays. Nowadays with LLMs, you could go much faster and you could build so many things because the underlying model is so much more intelligent, and the approach obviously changes how you build this, but the agents versus like predictive models, but the overall evaluation frameworks and things like that stay relevant and the same.
It's how do you drive adoption on the user end, because it's such a notoriously analog space, especially on the buyers and the subs? How do you convince them to leverage these agents? It's very impressive.
Yeah. Well, we crawl before you walk, essentially, and then if they can walk, we can empower them to run. I think that what does it mean to crawl? The crawl means like, hey, you can continue doing what you're doing now, but rely on the AI to read the information off of the documents themselves. That's almost like step one. That's what I call crawling. Like it's faster than just like doing it by hand, because now you're not entering the information into the accounting system or into Excel or into something like that. You're just letting the system read that information, put it, and you just have a human in the loop that looks at it and verifies it. The same thing with, delivery slips, or the same thing with invoices. Now, once they're comfortable with that, we can take them a step further. And that's what I mean by walking. We can start saying, okay, now, in addition to reading the documents themselves, let's start automating a lot of the steps in the process itself. Like, okay, if your accounts payable person, let's say, processes lots of invoices, can we take a portion of those invoices and automate processing of those invoices? Like, for example, you could say, every time I get an overhead invoice for anything related to my electricity bills, water bills, or whatever else, I want to automatically approve that invoice, enter it into my accounting system, and push it through. You can automate that workflow and program it using an agent. Now, an agent goes and automated 20% of your or 15% of your invoices, for example. Same thing you could do with delivery tickets, for example. You could say, hey, when delivery tickets are coming in, I don't need a human in the loop to actually look at them. As long as they check certain like criteria, I can approve them, or maybe some reporting capabilities like, hey, can you automate this weekly reports about your rentals that are about to expire? We can build an agent that will run that report for you, generate it for you, and provide it to you on a weekly basis, so you don't have to have an analyst doing this work. So that's what I mean by sort of walking. The ultimate running state would be, you could probably automate 80% of procurement and accounts payable work and inventory management type of work with agents. Because if you can program a lot of the scenarios and say, hey, here's what happens when I get orders that match my inventory. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what happens when I get my rental order. Here's what I want to do when I get my concrete delivery ticket, for example. And so on and so forth. So that's kind of what our approach is.
It's very impressive. I mean, that's like thing I've always looked at, the change order process, like, which is the very unpredictable part of it, which is always happens, right? On a job site, you never know when materials might arrive, might not arrive. But if you're able to predict and automate and at least mitigate that risk of it not arriving, that's a massive uplift on hitting the milestones.
We mostly make impact, I would say, automating the operational side of things. So like, you could have that predictability, or you could have that accurate data without having put a lot of manual work into it, because so much in construction is like, you put data in, good things happen, right? So much of how construction operates. But tell me how many contractors actually put data in correctly? Very few, right? Or at least if they do, then they have a huge staff to do this. And what we empower them to do is like, hey, you can have clean, good data that will actually drive good predictions with AI agents. They could do that gnarly, boring work of entering data, verifying that data, checking, the quantities. That work could be automated for you, so you don't have to deal with it. And now with this good data, now you can make good decisions, whether it's the buying materials at the right prices, or it's about lead times and making sure that the materials get there on time, and so on and so forth.
I guess this kind of ties along to my next question. What's one of the most challenging moments in your career? Is it pitching to these GCs with their legacy systems, ways of working, and say, hey, I forgot this AI tool, like we can save you money in XYZ? Like, is that the hardest? Is it being the family man? Is it raising the capital? What is that?
Making waffles is also an option.
Making waffles in the morning.
In this specific business, I would say that, the whole entrepreneurial journey is about walking into a room with the lights off and you have a flashlight in your hands, and you quickly need to orient yourself, by putting pointing flashlight at the objects. And the way I look at it is that the most difficult part for us was that we knew procurement was a hot topic. Like we knew that a lot of contractors struggled with procurement, material purchase orders and tracking what has been received at the job site, what's sitting at the warehouse, and processing the invoices themselves and making sure that they tie into job costs correctly and the committed costs reflected correctly. We knew that this was a problem, but what was the solution was not so clear. So like when we started, we didn't even know that AI was the solution. Like we started in 2022, January 2022, when the company was founded. And ChatGPT came out November 2022. Okay. And so like, while we knew that this was a problem, procurement, we did not know that AI is going to be such a big unlock for this problem. And so only in 2023, when we heavily working on the company and had some beta customers, we realized that, wow, actually the challenge is that if this takes so much manual work to solve these issues, and this manual work can be actually solved with AI. And that was the big realization, the big aha moment. This, I would say, happened in 2023, early 2023, and that was the most difficult moment to figure this out. And then even when we realized that, to then say, okay, let's tackle extraction problem first. Like what I mean by extraction, data extraction problem. How can we read this information off of the documents? Unlock that. And now we are launching automation agents that can actually automate the workflows, and we just launched them. Those figuring all of this out is the most difficult problem. So because you don't know all these things walking in, and you have to figure them out on the fly. That's, I would say, the most difficult part.
Well, thank God ChatGPT came out only sort of a year after you founded it to sort of make you think, maybe we need to rethink this. That's not long. Some people realize years in and yeah, we need to change that. That's why it's not quite ticking all the boxes for the customers.
Yeah, I mean, we when we started building this, we realized that, hey, it's not just about building a mobile app for the field, for example, where they can request materials or receive materials, but that's just moving the problem from the office onto the field. And it's not like the field guys have more time. The big unlock happened when we said, hey, can we remove the problem altogether so that not the office and not the field, none of them have to solve this issue. And the way we tackled this, we said, okay, hey, if the guys buy these materials, let's say a lot of this will call orders, can we just have them snap pictures of the delivery tickets or the every time they get a paper slip and they do a pickup of the material at the will call? Can we read those documents and can we automatically capture those costs as they happen? We said, hey, we can do that. Now this takes no work for the field, takes no work for the office. And sort of that was the first unlock. Then we said, okay, how else can we capture that data? We said, hey, what if they just dictate this information? Can they just vocalize what they need and then LLMs will interpret this and turn that into an order? We built that, and now we have so the whole idea is to remove the problem altogether, not just move it and say, hey, here's a mobile experience instead of the desktop experience, but remove it altogether with AI where you don't have to do this work anymore.
Thank God for that. I guess that kind of ties us into the next question about skills. With all that sort of change, you'll need, I guess, new people learning how to plug in or specializing in LMMs or whatever it could be. Where have you sort of seen growth, especially since the OG AI days where it wasn't even called that, before the ChatGPT? What sort of changed for you? Because I think a lot of people listening in are thinking, I want to work in an AI company.
I the funny thing is that some of it is not translatable. Some of it, I have to change how I operate myself. So much of the way I used to do things, if I just use my muscle memory, it would be doing it wrong. Because AI and LLMs transform the way we operate. And it's not just about how we build AI systems, but it's about how sales operates, how marketing operates, how customer success operates, how I, as a CEO of a startup, need to operate. So it's about changing. You have to be open but how do we do this? I mean, we all learn. I like the analogy again, just kind of going with the metaphor. It's at the end of the 90s when internet came out, I guess I was still a teenager back then, but I mean, maybe a better analogy that I definitely lived through this through this time was mobile phone era, 2008, 2007 when iPhone came out, and we were all adjusting and and learning how to do things now that you have essentially a personal computer in your hands. And the same way that people adjusted in the 90s when all of a sudden they were connected and there's this thing, World Wide Web, and you could do things, you could buy things online and things like that, and you could do business online, have email and everything else. So like that's the same way that it happens now, where it's like we have to change how we do everything. And as whether we're AI company or we are a accounting company or whatever legal company, we have to figure out how to live in this world and how to do this. But as a company that's building AI systems, we are also learning like, okay, this is where we can use inference. In this other place, we can actually convert that into code. And like, and when do you use what? You have to figure this out and learn. Because we've been doing this so long, I think we're far ahead than anybody else, because we've learned it and solved a lot of the issues that companies that starting out in the space trying to apply AI will take them a couple of years to figure those things out.
I'm with Martin Kelly from Blueprint, who is a sponsor of Tech at the Table podcast and a partner of Ella Murray.
And we've been delighted to partner with Ella Murray over the last few years for Blueprint, and very excited about supporting Tech at the Table. And for everyone from the community, we do have a discount for Blueprint Vegas in September. We really hope to see you there, alongside Lou, of course.
So check it out in the show notes.
So Eldar, I mean, you're so much on the cutting edge and you're way ahead of everyone else, given your early start. What excites you? What tools or toolkits do you see in the market that excites you the most?
Oh man, I mean, there's so much out there that's exciting right now. I think in general, obviously, I'm very excited just what Anthropic has done and Claude and Claude Co-work and obviously the coding tools. That's probably the biggest like aha moment in the past like year and a half. Like they really transformed the space. If we say like just big picture. If I speak about now startups specifically, I think there's a lot of exciting tools that have been built. I'm very excited about specifically AI targeting very specific problems. So obviously, we as a company, a vertical AI company for construction and automated procurement. But I'll take an analogy from a different world, let's say, which is not construction, something that excites me. It's good friends of mine actually out of Verkada that started this company called Serval, for example. The company automates IT help desk tickets. So like, a lot of the access requests or, sort of like typical help desk tickets that you have in the company that, employees submit and say, hey, I cannot access this, or I need access for that. They can automate a lot of them with agents, so that, before that, you would use something like ServiceNow, where you would log a ticket and then the IT person would go and give you, access to a particular system and provision certain access and device and whatnot. They automate those steps, and they basically build agents that can automate this with complex authorization, complex provisioning logic and enterprise logic and so on and so forth. That's a very exciting example where we're going to a specific vertical and we're really automating the steps that like humans had to do. And it's like, it's not a flashy or exciting job to resolve IT help desk tickets. But now, machine can take that and actually solve that. That's exciting. The same way that, we're solving these problems for accountants or for purchasers in construction companies, the stuff that nobody likes doing, you know what I mean? And that's where I see the biggest potential. You could look at legal and, like what is knowing things with legal review and contracts or whatever else. Like you could take any of this type of specialties, and if you can build a vertical AI solution for that, that's what I think is what excites me right now in the next like 3-year period.
Make the unsexy things sexy. What about Eldar? Outside of waffle making, are there any was an AI solution you use in your personal life?
Well, for like a very specific things, I don't know if there are a lot of good consumer AI vertical tools yet. I mean, obviously, we all play around with like, AI video making and, images and things like that. But those are, I think that my personal take on it, I don't think I want to highlight anything specific I use as a consumer, because I honestly think that right now is the golden era of the enterprise vertical AI. Interestingly enough, like when iPhone came out, right? So like with iPhone, it was the consumer apps that kind of pushed the boundary of what was possible in the beginning. Remember, when iPhone came out, what were the biggest hits? It was Instagram, it was Foursquare, it was, apps like Path and Yelp and those guys. Like it was the consumer apps that were showing, like paving the way and like showing us what we can do with AI. I think with nowadays, what's happened is that you would expect that, okay, something similar is going to happen with AI, where like the consumer apps will pave in the way. Maybe there's like a cool travel app that everyone starts using, which is AI driven, or like there's a cooking app or whatever that might be. I don't see that actually. What's paving the way, I think, is you have this general purpose chat AI systems, and then you have interest in enterprise applications. And that's why, history repeats itself, but it never repeats itself in the same identical way. And I think that I see a lot more exciting things in the enterprise world, not so much on the consumer side of things.
I love how you see exciting things. So an exciting audience, you'll probably get to know me a bit better. I have an AI tool that makes my golden Labrador do funny dances for whatever song I want. And that's probably one of my best investments. Or I also just typed in best AI tools for people. Do you know the first thing that came up? It's called Chai, create your perfect AI friend. I mean, that's worrying the world we live in. And the first thing is a free AI girlfriend phone call.
And Lou, you need some friends. Don't you need friends? This is how Lou gets her friends at long last. Wait, Eldar, you make a really interesting point. I mean, on consumer apps driving the latest wave or the previous wave, and now it's enterprise apps. But did you see John Turnus's, the Apple CEO's commentary about the future launch of the Apple iOS with embedded AI, then being the stadium to which everything else will have to participate? What do you think of like that? This enterprise AI now bleeding into another next wave of consumer applications?
I actually agree with you, Zander. I think that is a very big accelerator for consumer apps because, like, honestly, iPhone, obviously accelerated all these consumer apps back in 2007, 2009. But I think that now Apple has been holding the apps back almost, like, because if you think about like voice transcription, like Siri, it's awful. Like the current state of Siri is awful for voice transcription. And the fact that we get this now Gemini powered voice transcription on the phone and it will work out of the box. It's a simple thing, but it makes building new apps so much easier. And now you can imagine doing this with images. You can imagine doing this with videos. And if it's built in, I think that's going to really catapult the consumer apps. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I think of that like, I mean, it's almost that Siri, to your point, it's not good, but it's almost a shock that it was so held back and it's such a first mover advantage and consuming so much applications that you have to think of there's something in the background that they're working on. You have to imagine that they're going to be pushing their new AI tools because they have it's everywhere. It's embedded in everything that we have. And when so much of our systems run on iOS, just a bet on Apple, or at least a thought of it.
It's been that long before Apple actually integrated now, and interesting enough, they decided not to build it in-house but partner with Gemini, obviously, which is very interesting, but I think it's overdue almost. Like,
well, it's such a good opportunity for folks like yourself to focus on the niches and capitalize on them, which is just phenomenal. Taking kind of a broader approach, what's the most difficult decision you've had to make at the table? And waffles not included, or maybe if you want to talk about flavor.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, but I would say the one thing that comes to my mind, which was still to this date, I think about, when I decided to leave the PhD program at Stanford, that was probably the most difficult decision. And it was like not just that decision alone, but what happened afterwards in the next like year and a half, once I left the PhD program. So like, first of all, leaving the PhD program was tough because it's like my parents wouldn't understand me. A lot of my friends wouldn't understand me. It's like, come on, you're in the best CS program in the world at probably the best or one of the best institutions in the world. You're 2 years away from graduating. You're on good track, like my advisors were saying, and to go and leave and say, hey, I'm going to build a company. And then when we started building that company, man, we went through hell. I mean, just it was awful. Like, we had some great technology coming out. So we had some great NLP technology coming out of Stanford for natural language processing. But the problem was that we tried to apply it to different ideas, different products. Several ideas never took off. And we were probably like 2 years into that company and we're not making any money. We raised some capital, admitting the defeat and saying, hey, I'm just going to shut down that company and I'm going to go back to Stanford was very tough for me because it's like admitting a failure. And I'm not used to losing. I'm a very competitive person and, you don't get too far if you're not competitive. So like in this world, at least in the world of entrepreneurship, and we persevered through that. We persevered. We ended up building a product that ended up getting the attention from Groupon. Groupon made an acquisition offer at the time, for $20 million.
Sorry, how long was the difference? So you had 2 years of not creating anything.
So 2011, when we founded the company, 2013 is when Groupon came in and wanted to buy us at the time. And again, it was a difficult decision. We ended up walking away. And that whole period from 2011 through 2013 was probably one of the most difficult periods of my life because just leaving Stanford program, going through a bunch of pivots, not being successful, not being able to admit your failure in a way. And then, finally getting we had a couple of offers actually at the time and walking away from those offers, not but a couple other offers that we had at the time, including Facebook. We actually had an offer from Facebook in 2012.
Wow. I'm not feeling too sorry for you. I'm not going to lie.
It was really, really tough. I keep getting all these offers.
It was tough in the sense that psychologically you're like, you're crazy. Like, you're like, you must be crazy doing that, right? I mean, and then we persevered, we built that company and ended up getting a bunch of customers that were happy with our product. But I think that difficult period in my life was that period. And I would say it taught me the most. Like, failure teaches you so much more than success, because you don't learn anything from success. You learn from failing time at a time and doing something that doesn't work, and then going back and working on your mistakes, then coming back stronger and better and smarter. And that's I think the key to entrepreneurship.
Very Addison moment there. 999 ways not to make a light bulb. I love that. All the fails.
Who do you want for us to extend an invite to Tech at the Table? Is it, maybe Andrew Mason, who I think he's the founder of Groupon? Do you know anyone at Facebook want to join, or like someone from the industry? Who do you think would be a good guest?
I think the person that you might want to talk to, Ron Antevi. He's a person who built a company, pretty successful construction tech company that ended up getting acquired by Trimble a number of years ago. It was a sizable acquisition. I think sub 1 billion, but it was close to that. Spoke to him. I got to know him recently, and I think he's a veteran in the industry, and I think it would be fun to talk to, just because, like, an OG in construction tech entrepreneurship. I think he could be a good guest.
I'd love that. Thank you for that, Eldar. We'll be getting his details and getting him on. Thank you so much for joining Tech at the Table. It's been a pleasure having you. As always, thanks for joining us at Tech at the Table.
It's been a pleasure having you. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
And if there's someone you'd like us to join the table, get in touch at podcast@techathetable.com.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time, and bring your appetite.